Hi, welcome to My Messy Fingers. I'm Charlie. We are going to work on a new album. It is featuring Ciao's Elegance of Blue collection. And I'm going to have 2 of the paper pad, 2 of the patterns pad, and 1 of the A4 that I'm going to be working with. I'm gonna get you making the album first, then we're gonna go on to wrapping the album, but we've got to put it together first. Okay, you're going to need, this album is gonna measure 9 by 9. You're gonna need 2 9 by 9 panels. This has gorgeous images, floral images that I want to play with, so that's the reason for the 9 by 9. You can reduce this to an 8 by 8. You're just going to have to make the adjustments accordingly. We're going to play with a 2.5 inch by 9 spine. That will allow for 3 pages. That will be 6 signatures plus the inside left and the inside right panels for a total of 8 signatures. So it's going to be a pretty big album. Some of the signatures will be small but elegant, and others will be beefed up just a little bit. So again, you're going to need to have 2 9 by 9s, 1 2.5 by 9, and then when I make my albums, I use a product that's called Tyvek, and I was asked to show what it is. It is a white shipping envelope, and it takes quite a bit to tear this, and because of its waxy finish, it allows the cardstock, when this Tyvek is on the outside of our album, and the cardstock, as you're opening and closing, the cardstock is moving against the Tyvek and not against the sharp edges of the chipboard. So this is what I'm using to bind my albums with. So I've already got them taped and scored and ready to go, and these are the measurements. 2 inches wide by 8.5. I try to stay off the ends because I don't want that, when we're folding over the cardstock, I don't want that additional bulk right here on the end. So I always cut it about 1/2 inch short of what my height is. That way there is 1/4 of an inch top to bottom. Then you're going to come in and you're going to score at 7/8 of an inch and then 1 1/8. And that will create a gusset down the center. And this is going to be our guide for the measurements, the spacing in between all the panels. And I do prefer a 1/4 inch gusset. If these get too close together and you start getting that bulk in there for the paper, and then you're turning this, then you create some tension, and that's where you could end up with some of your seams ripping out on or cracking on the outside. So I've already got mine taped and ready to go, and I'm going to take this off first. And then I am going to set this in here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to come right up to that score line. Roughly 1/4 inch top to bottom. We're going to take this piece off. And now we're going to put on the spine. And the same thing, we're going to come right up to that score mark. Turn it over, and now we're going to add the Tyvek And you can get this Tyvek at Scrap and Create. She sells it there. One of these envelopes, if you're cutting it every 2 inches, is going to give you quite a bit of albums if you want to continue to build it this way. So it'll get you 6. So this one envelope will make 6 albums. And you get 2 envelopes. So if you don't think you're going to make that many albums, share it with a friend. Swing by Scrap and Create on their website, pick up a couple, and or hoard it, you know, over your crafting time. You might want to have 2 sheets. Besides, you might want it for mailing, who knows. Okay, lining this up here on my grid, and then I'm going to come in here and set that down. So now I've got nice spacing in between. And I'll show you how it plays into my albums. Everyone has a different album style. If you do not want to build this one, that's fine. Use your album. But do please pay attention to the measurements on my gussets. Okay, so now we get to these 2 pieces. I want an inch border all the way around the perimeter. So you're going to have 2 pieces. And I always mark one with a 3/8 inch tape so that I know which piece I'm playing with that's a little bit wider. Plus it helps me, this is the direction that it should go. So these are going to go like so. You're going to have one that you're going to cut at 11 3/4 by 11. And the other one is going to be 11 1/2 by 11. So then when these 2 come together, like so, you're going to have a seam here, and I want that seam dead center of the spine. That is where I will have less, the possibility of it splitting will be less, plus the seam looks much better here in the center than it does over here or over here. Plus the closer that you get to these gussets on either side, then you're putting unwanted tension on that seam and you could end up having it split. So dead center, and then you should roughly have 1 inch on each end, and you should be about 1 inch top to bottom. And I think I'm just going to measure that real quick. So I'm right at 1 inch there, and I'm right at 1 inch there. Maybe just down a smidgen here. Okay, so to get this together, I'm going to take the tape, and then on this side of the album, we're going to cover this with quite a bit of tape, because this is what's going to go down onto the cardstock to ensure that the cardstock stays connected to our chipboard. So I'm just going to line that up and then follow up the tape seam. Now I am playing with 100-pound cardstock, and I'll show you what it's called. Here, let me grab this. Okay, I get my cardstock from a company called CARDSTOCKwarehouse.com. This is the Color Plan Imperial Blue. I use 12 by 12. I'd rather cut down than to go, oh my gosh, on an 8.5 and 11. I don't have enough paper, so I always use 12 by 12. This comes in only 100-pound cover, so it is thick, and I always have to get 25 sheets, so I buy the bundle. It doesn't come in a weight less than that, so if you want to use a different color and you can find a nice beautiful dark blue. I will tell you that if you want to wrap it in something like an 80, 83, or even a 65, that's fine. But the inner pages, you really should use 100-pound cardstock, my opinion. And the reason being is that this cardstock supports extra weight a lot better when you got them in the album. So that's my philosophy. I don't like wimpy pages, and then you're putting all that weight on it, and it's a 65-pound weight cardstock, and then the page just doesn't feel like it has durability to me. So I'm going to run this tape right up the edge. I should use my edger, but I'm in an awkward position. Normally I turn this around, flip around a lot, but I'm trying to be kind with the video. So here we go. My elbow's in the way. I apologize. Let me turn it this way. Just enough so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm taking the tape and I'm following the gusset line. I want this tape here so that it will act as reinforcement. And then because of the width of this spine, I am going to run one smaller strip. I started with, these are 1/2 inch here along the edges. This is 3/8, and I will finish with the 3/8. So then I'm coming down here to the end. I'm gonna go in the middle, or approximately the middle. And then we're gonna go in the middle again. Try and get some good coverage. Now I'm going to repeat that process on this end. In the middle. And then the middle again. And like I said, if you've got a different album method, go for it. It's no big deal. I just know that I have some subscribers that don't really have a preference, and then I pick up new subscribers who've never made an album before, so this helps them until they develop their own system or they find something they like. Okay, so once again, we're going to come in here at 1 inch. I'm measuring it here on my grid, and I'm going to push that in a little bit because I am not getting, oh, for Pete's sake, goodness sakes. Let's see, so if this is at 1 inch here, where does that leave me down here? About 7/8. So that's close enough. Now, I just did it again. Okay. Then I want to just make sure I'm at as close to 1 inch as I can get up here. Now, I've got myself placed. I have my seam in the middle. I am planting very firmly with this hand so that I can lift this. And I'm going to peel off the tape off this spine. Trying not to move my left hand. Now I'm going to grab this and just lay it down. All right. So next, we are going to lift this And then we're going to take this tape off. But don't be in a hurry. If you've not done this before, don't be in a hurry to lay this down yet. Hold on a second. All right, so you've got a gusset that's fairly flexible. We don't want it doing this business, and we don't want it doing this business. So you're going to give a gentle tug, even pressure, and lay it down, and that ensures that your gusset stays open, that you don't have a collapsed gusset. Because if that happens, you've got a lot of tape to undo, or you're tearing all this off and you're wasting paper. So now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Same process. We're get ready to lay it down. We're going to give a firm and even tug and then lay this down. Alrighty. Okay. Now I'm going to run tape around the entire perimeter of the cardstock, and then I'm going to run tape around the entire perimeter of the chipboard. I'm going to use a wider tape around the perimeter, and you can do yours in pieces. I just find it quicker and faster for me to do it in one long strip. And I apologize if some of this is off screen. I am working with a fairly large piece. I will move it around as much as my desk will allow me to. Just a minute. There we go. I got a little bit more room there. Okay, so let's do a good burnish. Now I'm going to take, so that was 5/8, and now I'm going to use 3/8 here, which will help close up this gap here. Does that make sense? Okay, so now, if you have a miter tool, you might want to grab that, get that out and ready to go, unless you just miter by eyesight and scissors. Everyone has a different technique. My eyesight's not as sharp as it used to be. So with that said, I have been known to make some cutting errors, and then I have to recut because I sometimes cannot discern where I'm at on the paper trimmer. That happens when you get old. Okay, now we're going to burnish this. All right, I was asked here very recently what this was. This is a 2-in-1 miter tool. It's made of steel. It's got a nice heavy weight to it. You can get it at colorwayarts.com. It's www.colorwayarts.com. They have two of these. They have this long one, and then they have a shorter one. And I've ordered the shorter one because I'm going to try it and see how it feels when I miter. But it sits in the corner nice and tight, and it gives me something to hold on to so that I can cut my corners without a little small tool moving around too much on me. You can use this for lots of things. I gotta turn this. Sewers use it, and they'll plant it, and then they use their rollers to trim off corners of fabric. Okay, now 100-pound cardstock is stiff, and it does take a little bit of work, but you can use it. It just takes a little bit more manipulation. So bend it over to start the flex. This is where I struggle, is folding these little corners in. Okay, so let's take this off. And I am going to stand up. Oops, 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 oops. Charlie. Goodness sakes, girlfriend. I forgot to take the tape off this. I was all ready to put that cardstock down, and goodness sakes, caught myself. Okay. All right, so let's work this end. Let's fold it over. Come on. I just want to peel that back a little bit. Not ready to take the whole thing off because I don't want to lay my arm on it or my sweater. Okay, just give it a good old. Let's go down here and let's do this one. Get this out of the way. Now I don't really mind pulling these strips off because it's up on top and my arm's not going to lay on. I don't want fuzzies on my tape. Okay, pick it up. Take this strip off, and I'm going to pull this in, make sure I've got all my corners rounded and pushed in. See a little bit of tape there, but it'll get covered. All right. So there is the base for the album. I'm just doing another good burnish. Okay, now what I like to do here is we've got these sections here on the gussets, and take a tool. It can be a large balled end. If you have a nice smooth edge, try and not use the a sharp edged bone folder because you're going to tear when you see what I'm doing. I was even tearing with this, and I know there's a square long one that's got a flattened edge and then it's square at the end. Get something that's got a smooth edge, because what we're going to do is we're going to push this cardstock down into this gusset so that we can get that bulk down in there and not have it taking up space on the upper side of the album, and I'll show you what I mean. So now when you close this, look at these corners. Get nice corners. That cardstock is pushed down in there. It's not floating over on the top. All right? Next, we're going to put in our spine for binding our pages. You're going to want to cut a piece of cardstock because this is 9 inches. You're going to do it at 7 7/8 by 6 inches. So 7 7/8, 6 inches. And we're going to come down here and we're going to put this in the center and up off the edge just a smidgen. And then we're going to tape this down, but we're going to put tape in here, not here, but in here. We're going to address this when we put tape on the back side. So there's a couple places, okay, there's my tool, where I want to pay attention to putting some tape down. We're going to put some down here in the middle. And then we're going to put tape here. And then we're going to come in roughly a total of 1 inch, and we're going to put down another one. The reason I'm doing that is when we put this down on this heavy cardstock, if this isn't taped in here at some point, then it's going to kind of bubble. I don't want it to bubble. It'll be hid when we build, but I want to just kind of address some of it right now. All right, 1/2 inch tape. Where are you? Here we go. So now I'm going to run 1/2 inch tape around the edges of this. My writing's on the other side, so I'm going to turn this over. That way, if you didn't get the measurements, you can stop the video here in a minute and get the measurements again. Okay. So like I said, this is going to come in here, and you're going to space it as best as you can. I'm going to kind of redefine my gussets down here on the end so I can see them a little bit better. And then try and have equal space here and here. All right, so once again, this is 8 7/8 by 6. And I am going to come in here and am I level? No. And I want to pull this up a little bit. Come on. If this isn't level, the pages won't lay in level. Okay. I'm going to pull these strips. 1. Okay. I'm not burnishing real hard, not yet, because we're going to do the same thing with this strip that we did with these smaller pieces. We're going to fold this over, we're going to identify where that gusset is, and then we're going to push that cardstock down into the gusset. This is where you can get tears because it's a lot longer piece, and you're asking this paper to do something like bend that it's not used to doing. So now we're going to find this one. And what is really important for me here is I've got to identify where this chipboard starts and stops. I've got to erase those marks now. I hope you all got it written down. At least these here in the center. All right. So see again, when we bring these up and fold them, look how nice and clean and tight those corners are. Okay, now I'll give it a good firm burnish. And the reason I didn't firmly burnish it to begin with is when you're committing, when you're asking that paper to forgive itself and bend down in here, that tape shouldn't be down tight. All right, so now our pages. What did I do with them? You're going to have 3 of them, and for now you're going to cut them at 8 7/8. We want it to match the height of this, 8 7/8, and then you're going to score all 3 of them at 5/8. So it's 8 I don't know what the length is yet. I'll show you how I get there. But you're going to score these at 5/8. So I've already scored mine. I'm going to add my tape because I'm going to be putting them in here in a minute. Give them all a good burnish. And then fold these back on the score line. I like to have a 5/8 gusset in between my pages because as we add signatures to those pages, you are building up, scoring those the wrong way, you are building up in between the pages, in between the signatures. So giving yourself a 5/8, it allows you to do some decent buildups or to add some elements that might have a little bit extra thickness to them so that you don't have your signatures crushing each other when you close the book. All right, so this is how I try to get mine in. If I don't get this first one laid right, then the other 2 aren't going to lay right. There is this seam right here that I created so I could identify where that spine piece started. And I am going, wait a minute, Charlie. Oh, you goofy girl. See, I'm pretending like I have already told you what I'm doing. All right, so here's how I get to my length. I bring my album up, I stand it tall, I'll lay this up against where it's going to be attached to the spine, and then I see where my paper is to the end. I want to be about 1/4 of an inch in. And then that gives me my overall cutting length. So these are coming in, whoops, these are coming in right at 9.5. So this will be 9.5. You're gonna want 3 of these. Okay, so now I can take this back off. I'm gonna lay it flat. And I'm gonna come in here. I wanna come off this edge just a smidgen, not by very much, just a smidgen, so that it's not sitting. Then I'm gonna, I didn't cut this. That was the whole point of that exercise. Good grief. Hold on just a second. I am forgetting things here. Easy enough. At least right now it still is. And then I'll cut the other 2. So my total length is 9.5. My height is 8 7/8. And I've got my first paper, my first page laid, and it looks like it laid pretty straight. So now I'm gonna cut this at 9.5 in overall length. Excuse me with my paper trimmer here. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one at 9.5. Okay. Now we will add the next 2 pages. I will peel this off, and then I'm going to come right up under that seam, and I'm just going to gently lay this down because I want to make sure that these are going in straight, and this one did not. It's off kilter just by a little bit. I can see where it's off, so if I don't get this in there right, then it's it'll be crooked. Okay, that's better. I'm holding it in place, and then I'll burnish it in place. And then this last one. Come on. Okay, that's good enough. So what you should have when you're done is you have a 5/8 gusset, a 5/8 gusset, a 5/8 gusset, and then your last spacing here is roughly a 5/8 gusset. So this is your album. It's done. I am not covering these panels because it's a waste of cardstock. They're going to get covered when we place our signature in, so there's no sense in blowing off to 12 by 12 or whatever size you're building. Okay, so there we have it. That's the album, and I'll see you when we start to decorate the front. Until then.